How are you?
Serious face. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to the February 27th meeting of the Human Services Committee. Meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. I think at 10:10 or 10:11. Approval of the prior committee meeting. Do I have a motion? Supervisor Strainer and Supervisor Runyon on the second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Privilege of the floor. Anyone from the public, any other supervisors not on the committee, or any committee members have any comments or questions before we get going? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to the agenda. The action item, we have two requests. This morning we have Commissioner Christina Mastriani, and also for her first official meeting as our fiscal manager, Jill Mamone, and welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Request number one, if you could run us through that, please, Nina.
Sure. So this is to cover the settlement cost to request to appropriate funds from code A918 assigned sexual abuse lawsuits fund balance to social services code A6010419 settlements in the amount of $250,000 as outlined in the request.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to bring that to the floor? Supervisor Turner on the motion and Supervisor Runyon on the second. Any questions or comments, or does our council have anything to add to that?
No.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So moved. Request number two, Nina, please.
So this request is to utilize the vacant building, as I discussed before, on Gurney Lane to be used as a family shelter. If we can get the board to approve this, we'll be able to move forward to request a proposal to identify a provider. And this will be the next steps to determine the operation of the shelter, strategies for funding, apply for grants, complete the assessment, and provide an operational timeline. This is just the approval for the intent of the use of a family shelter. And as things move forward, we'll be requesting permission as we progress in the process.
And you're working with other departments within Warren County to develop all that information that's needed.
Once we get the approval to move forward to use the building for a family shelter, we'll develop the request for proposal with the purchasing department.
Yep.
And we've been in contact with Buildings and Grounds and DPW, Kevin Hajos, as well as the county attorney's office.
Okay.
So communications remain ongoing.
Great.
Want a motion?
Yeah, motion Supervisor Strainer, second on that, please. Supervisor Bruno.
This question,
Yeah, please.
is there an estimated cost associated with getting this building up to the standard of being able to used as a shelter?
So what we'll work on when we identify the provider is to develop a concept paper of what we want to do with the shelter in terms of construction, how much of a building modification. The state does have what's called HHAP, Homeless Housing Assistance Program, that covers the construction costs, and you can apply up to 15 million. So if you see up to 30 years, it's to cover the life of that grant. That's why that's specified.
So what we're approving today is basically an exploration of the concept.
Correct. Right.
And which
Supervisor
building
Bruno?
is this over there? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Which building is this over? This isn't the one that's attached to the Historical Society, is it?
It's not, yes, it's in front of it.
It's in front of it, but it's not attached.
It's not attached.
The one we were going to, we thought to use as a museum, thank you, and training center or whatever. But my question is, so you have it looks like a good source for funding.
Mhm.
And is there any idea the likelihood that you'd be successful getting funding from that?
Yes, I've already had multiple conference calls with the state, so, when we identify the provider, they would be the ones that ideally would be applying for that grant. We have to work all of that out still. Again, this is all preliminary, but
Provider being what entity is gonna operate that?
correct, yes, yep. So from there, we'll determine what we want to do with construction, apply for the grant. Obviously, we would seek approval throughout that process and go from there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh,
Go ahead, Nancy.
Thank you. Without doing the assessment, before you do the assessment, do you have any idea how many families at a time would be able to be housed?
So when the state came up to look at the building, they essentially said, as is the way it's structured now, we could probably serve 3 to 4 families.
Okay.
Depending on size, and we'd prefer to keep it somewhat small.
Sure.
We'd like to successfully program, help people transition out
Mhm.
and meet the needs of the community without being too big.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And so this is geared toward or is aimed at families, not individuals.
Correct.
Thank you.
And this isn't a unique idea that you and your staff came up with. This is something, a concept, and something that's existing throughout New York State, including a number of facilities, as I understand it, upstate too.
Yes, the department is experiencing almost double of homeless families. It's harder to move them into permanent housing. They're experiencing longer stays in motel rooms. Motels are not ideal settings, so this is an identified need, and in conjunction with the county's plan to utilize building spaces that are owned by the county, this would be a good way to develop mixed housing for our county to address those needs.
Go ahead, Supervisor.
Thank you. Last question, I think. So you have an idea or you have a list now of families that are applying or whatever for shelter?
We provide emergency shelter for families that are homeless. So we already are placing them, but we would prefer to place them in a shelter than a motel.
And how many do you have on list?
So right now we have 29 families in temporary housing.
Wow.
We do have other programs that help transition people out of housing. So when we find those apartments, we can help set them up. It's just a matter of available housing and affordability.
Thank you.
And I know that Washington County, particularly Hudson Falls, Fort Edward area, are Washington County Social Services is housing a lot of their people over in Warren County simply because there's not the hotel and motel rooms over there. So that we're in kind of competition for what's not a whole lot of options as it is, so. County Administrator?
Yeah, thank you,
Thanks.
Mr. Chair. I do feel an obligation, if the committee approves of this move, to go to the Facilities Committee tomorrow and just to enter a discussion. We have never officially closed out the Joseph Warren Museum. The Facilities Committee had instructed us to go back and revise the design of the building to hopefully get a cost less than $700,000. We've not been successful in doing that, and the memorabilia from Joseph Warren is now in the hands of a university in Connecticut. So I think it'll be okay, but they've never given us the approval to completely discontinue our move on making it a Joseph Warren Museum.
Good point.
That's something that you think that your committee can take up tomorrow morning? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Supervisor Tom, yeah, I'm sorry.
Good point. Yeah, we should have closed that out. The Historical Society, et cetera, is still in, we're done, so there's no point in our prolonging that.
Thanks.
Vote on this before you.
I'm sorry. We never,
You have a motion, you just need to vote on.
okay, we should have taken the vote on this. Thank you, Amanda. All in favor of approval? Say aye. Any and not voting for it? Okay, so moved. Thanks. Supervisor Thomas, did you have something?
Yeah, I just would like you to elaborate on fire. Is that a for-profit organization or a non-for-profit or?
It would be a not-for-profit who has experience in operating a shelter.
Anything else? Nina, have you got a couple of, discussion items? I think regarding the commissioner's report and activities and updates report, that was emailed to all members of the county board. I think it was last Tuesday before the board meeting. If you didn't receive that, get in touch with myself or with Nina. Anything else, Nina?
I don't think so. We'll be working on our annual report. I have them from most units. We'll put that together. We'll send it to everyone to review our programs, so you kind of understand where the department stands from last year and our goals moving forward. I think that's all I have.
Good morning, Jill.
Good morning. So first, I'd like to say thank you to Tammy, who helped me with my reports. Otherwise, we'd all be looking at a blank report. But I got through it. So what you have is an updated from last month, January to December of 2024. And you will see that we came in 8% under budget. And only a 3% increase over 2023 for expenses. And on the revenue side, it was 3% over the budget, which was a good thing. And 19% over 2023 in revenues. So next month, we'll look at January and February, and but kudos to Julie Montero. Came in under budget and over revenue, so that's all I have.
Traditionally, do we track how often we receive grant funding from the state? I mean, we always know that it's always late in getting to us. But do we ever kind of
Oh, you mean claim settlements?
Yeah.
You're talking about claim settlements. There really isn't a set schedule.
Okay.
It's kind of comes in when it comes in.
okay,
You can't, like, as far as like the cash flow, which they asked me to do.
Sure.
It's just a guess.
okay,
Because we
Yeah.
might get 1 million one month and 300,000 the next, so
Right.
it's just.
okay.
Really depends on federal, state funding, fiscal cycles, allocations.
Also, I'd like to commend the department for communications to the public, especially this past month where there was a lot of confusion as far as individuals receiving certain types of benefits and that type of stuff. I think you did an excellent job communicating that to the public. So that you have to kind of get their information on social media. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yep,
Just to let everybody know, in the budget finance variance report, we do track the claims cash flow. how
Okay.
many days they're out, 30, 60, 90, over 120 over a year. So that's in that report.
thanks, Christine. Thanks. Anything else that anyone would like to add from the committee? I'll ask again, privilege of the floor and public comment. Anyone from the public? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Strainer and Supervisor